Hi, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, doing the trade review for August 6, 2014. And it was quite a hard open this morning, and I missed it, quite frankly. I was looking for an upside move today, coming into the day, and I was just simply hoping that we would get that move from areas lower, specifically either into Globex low or this 1900 or even down into this 1898. I didn't think that was a lot to ask for, but apparently the market just doesn't care what I was asking for, and that's cool. So a couple of things this morning. So first of all, out of the gate we had responsive buying and we had an extreme negative tick. Let me insert the tick real quick so everyone can see here. Okay, so out of the gate, obviously you can see the tick was negative 1200. Now, we've been getting a lot of big negative ticks, and I had the question in the room this morning. I immediately said I wasn't taking the, wow, this is going to take a minute because it's trying to download all the data. People were asking immediately, the first question people were asking me today was, one, why didn't I take the long out of the gate? And there's a simple reason for that, is I generally don't buy the opening print. I needed to see where the tick was. By the time I saw where the negative tick was, we were already trading up into this 1907.50 to 1909.50. Now, normally the reaction that we get out of a zone on, I would say the gross majority of days, okay, is if we open here and we rotate up into the zone, is that we see usually a 2-point counter trade back to the downside, okay? Now, I didn't call out a short here, nor did I take a short in this zone, because I was concerned with the extreme tick that we could have an open drive higher. However, by the same token, it would be very difficult for me to buy when we gap below prior day's low. It becomes very difficult for me to buy. So you've got to remember what my objective is. Number one, I'm trying to trade when it's easiest for me to trade, okay? Meaning I capture the market when others are off guard or they've gotten overextended intraday, right? And I can catch them on a stretch and take it to the downside. And I'm going to show you where even though I didn't get filled, where that trade location, where I was trying to nail that trade location later in the morning, okay? But this trade became very difficult for me. Additionally, if we look at NQ really quick, and I'm going to kind of compare them side by side here really quick. Okay, so on NQ, we had, when we opened, we were actually trading below or at and had dipped below Globex low, but additionally, we were also trading below Tuesday's low, but importantly, we were also trading below Friday's low. So I had, in the room, I didn't record this morning's session, but in the room, I did say if we could get back above Friday's low, that was kind of the test, and as long as we held above Friday's low on NQ, I expected a pretty good move back to the upside. Again, I did not take the trade out of the gate, but I have two objectives. The first objective is not to lose money if possible, right? The second one is to capture those trades when others are exposed. Look, if you're taking a trade the majority of the days and you're chasing up into these locations, okay, and that's working for you, that's great. But if you look at the past week, if you had followed that same process, right, and we just come in and okay, and I'm going to go to a 5-minute chart and I'm going to compress this if I can. Okay, so early in the week, and I'll give you multiple examples. If you had chased, obviously this is a gap up, but if you had chased this and assumed we were going to go in a straight run to the upside, move to the downside, we gapped down, right? This is the second 10-minute bar, the same bar where everyone was asking me, well, why didn't I take the move to the long side? Again, rotation back to the downside would have cost you money, right? Let's go a little bit further back here. See if we can just drag this along and make it go easier. Okay, same story here. Given very nice rotation up for almost 10 points out of the open here. But the prior session, right? If you took the open, yes, it did give you a rotation up that was tradable if you nailed it correctly on the low, but it rolled over relatively quickly back to the downside. So my point being is that this trade, while it worked out on one day, it failed on many more days. And I do not know many people who can successfully navigate figuring out which day to fade this this region, right? And write out the first few couple of bars, and which days to take it long and hold it long for the move up. It's very hard to figure out. And if the argument goes, well, the negative 1,000 tick, well, we had an extreme negative tick on the open here, and people got smoked back to the downside, right? Additionally, shorting. Once I saw the open drive higher here, these first 3 bars, and then we'll go back to the charts here really quick. Get rid of this temporarily. So once I saw these first 3 bars, and then over here on NQ, same situation. 1, 2, 3, open drive higher. So I knew within 15 minutes I had an open drive higher, and I did take a short. I did take a short with a 15-point rotation in NQ, going into half gap. That trade did not. Work. I got stopped on that trade. And as a matter of fact, I got stopped on 2 NQ trades. Nothing terrible. One for 10 points, one for 5 points, and then I had one nice trade to the downside on NQ from a trap trade above that I'll highlight in just a moment. The point of all this is that this became very difficult to trade, and if you were going to chase up, right? Yes, today chasing up worked. Okay, it paid you. But if you'll go back and look at the last 5 days, the majority of the days, traders who chased end up at best at break even or down. And the goal is for me to get to the end of the week and have actually built some equity into my trading account and not state the frustration of being a break even trader. Okay, so if I can't read the trade action clearly, if I don't know which way it's going to go, I'm not going to commit to a trade. What I wanted to see happen here was that we came up into Tuesday's low, rejected, pushed down into that 1900, trapped back up, and then made that push in the other direction. The other thing that's going on here, both in NQ and ES, is that people, one of 2 things is going on. Either people are hedging incredibly quickly, and let's get rid of this real quick. Okay, people are either hedging incredibly quickly to the downside or they're outright shorting, one of the 2. But what that's generating day after day has been these incredibly quick and painful moves to the upside, okay, where shorts are just getting squeezed. I can't reiterate the importance of letting the market have a good stretch to the upside before you're taking a short trade. It's just been really, really difficult when we're getting extended. That can play to your favor if we can get this extension done intraday as opposed to getting the gap overnight from the push down. We haven't been able to. We've achieved that on a couple of occasions, but we haven't gotten a consistency in it. And really, the pattern has been push down overnight in Europe and push up during the U.S. session. Has been the repeated pattern. I'll look for that pattern to continue. Hopefully for a while would be nice, actually. I just simply needed a little cooperation from the market for a push a bit lower. We didn't get it. That's cool. No big deal. The other thing that I want to point out here, okay, so if we look through the zones, and I'll aim this directly at my trading clients. So obviously, I did not call out a short and warned about the possibility of open drive higher with the extreme negative tick. Put me on guard. You knew not to take a trade in this zone. But first touch of this zone at the front of the zone yielded a 2-point rotation lower. Actually yielded a 4-point rotation lower to the downside, right? First time into this zone, right? I had mentioned in this area that originally I'd wanted the white zone lower, but because this area was so poorly auctioned that I had actually moved the white zone up. And I did leave this 1920, 1921 zone. Anytime you see the zone on the chart very thinly, the bars are much thinner than they are for example, in the majority of the time with the zones that I carry an equal thickness. That's because I think the zone is susceptible to being broken. So nonetheless, if you chose to trade in this area, a 2-point stop behind still yielded you a 2-point trade back to the downside. So, and then lastly, this 1923.50 was actually a little too perfect. We rejected right off the top of it and rolled to the downside. So this was very frustrating. I waited probably a good hour to 2 hours to get my fill up here, and it came in twice, knocked on the door twice, and just didn't give me the execution that I was looking for. It's disappointing to miss that by exactly a tick, and I'll talk about that in just a second. The thing that so someone had asked me, and quite fairly, well, Simon, you didn't call a trade here, and you didn't call a trade here, and what was the reason for that? So, and the reason for that was, quite frankly, these moves have been so violent back to the upside, and we are very buried at this point to the downside, and I want to show you this. Okay, so if we look at the chart, and I went over this morning, right? And I'm going to do this with 15 minutes so we can get some perspective in here. Okay, so if we look historically over the last couple of months, we go into this. Okay, every one of these down days, okay, have met after we've had a period of down, have met massive responsive buying back to the upside, right? Again and again, day after day, and you'll see these rallies take place both in the afternoon, occasionally out of the gate in the morning, right? I'm going to go back and show you. It hasn't just been in the past week. It's been repeatedly, week after week, right? We've had these mirror image moves back to the upside again and again. I've been trying to harness these moves, right? If our day had looked something like this with a push down, then a push back up, this is what I was trying to harness back to the upside. This is why I was cautious on taking shorts to the downside until we had a big, nice, fat stretch, right? But if you'll look, every time we get buried, and I'm going to bring this in, I'm going to keep scooting this over till I make my point abundantly clear, right? These responsive moves back up have just been brutal to the upside, okay? And I don't feel like stepping in front, particularly in the morning, of something that might end up looking like this and just keep rolling me zone after zone, particularly when I've already just simply missed the trade that I wanted to have, which was the trade to the upside. That was my intention from the get-go in the morning, was to get a rotation lower, find a trap, and get a move to the upside, and I was unable to harness that. As a matter of fact, that's the first thing I tweeted out this morning, was I was looking for an NQ trap to the upside. These are the reasons why I did not want to, particularly early in the day, take a early short back to the downside. The zone still worked, but it's just a matter of how much energy do I want to expand in fighting the market and fighting what I had a pretty good feeling was going to be a strong move to the upside. So let's flip back to the chart now. Hopefully I made that point well. And look at why this area was very attractive. So without going into expanded details, this area was very poorly auctioned. Okay, and oftentimes when you get into a poorly auctioned area, the market has one of two ways of going through it. It can either slice through very quickly, or it can do what we did here, which was build a lot of volume in this area as we were going through the re-auction process. Okay, and if you want to know more about the auction process, an excellent book to read on that is Mind Over Markets by Dalton, using volume profile. So if you want more details or want to go look for better examples of that, or deeper explanation than what I can do here in the video. The point of that is, once we get done re-auctioning this area, the market was finished. Okay. Also, if you look at the size of the stretch, essentially we went from 1905 all the way up to 1923.50. That's an 18.5 point stretch, right? That is a huge intraday stretch. Usually 10 and 15 cap it. Almost 20 today, and that's what I was actually hoping, that we were going to push up into this white zone a little bit before we rolled over to the downside. So the last thing that I want to cover, obviously we did roll over to the downside, and we actually ended up with a 10-point rotation lower. The piece that I want to cover here is very important. Two things. People have gotten used to this on dips, and that's great. guys that are going to rely heavily on this on the next couple of weeks, on these kind of moves out of the open, they're going to find themselves getting crushed on a regular basis. We are not going to get this every day, and these moves back up are not going to save people, right? Also, people have been unfamiliar with large rotations back to the downside, but we are now going to be experiencing, I believe, multiple days where we either have what's called, instead of trend day up, we'll end up with range extension and then failed range extension back to the downside, okay, which is what we had in this scenario. The way I plan to take advantage of it is when we get to the edges, meaning when we're plus 10 to 20 points up or minus 10 to 20 down, depending on the day, I'm going to be looking to hold my trailers for 5 to 10 point moves back in the opposite direction, just like we got here. Okay, that's my plan for attempting to capture these moves on the extension, but I'll be doing much more trading back to the middle on the majority of the days. I expect this type of activity to increase. This has really just been the mirror image of what we usually get on a down day, which looks something like this. Okay, and then we end up kind of having a choice of either sideways, continue up, or rotate back down to the lows of the day. I do want to remind people that if you're pressing for the lows of the day, even in a bear market, it is very rare to close on the low of the day, and the majority of the time we close back middle to upper end of the range, even on the down days. Okay, and this is also just psychologically, right? This is also what makes the short so difficult, is that we can still, like I said, end up trading down even by Friday down to 1885 trade location. And if you had taken a short here at 1916 thinking 1985 and you stopped out at 1920, right, you took a 5-point stop. This is what becomes so frustrating for the shorts, is this pattern when we go down of a series of days will kind of finally look like this, and then finally we get to your target and then we ricochet back out of there. But the squeezes back up, particularly for amateur shorts, these moves back up shake people all the time, and it makes it very difficult. I find it's much easier, although I love shorts, right? I find it much easier to get trade location once we're extended to the downside, right? And play for the move back up. So the last piece that I want to, let's see, I had almost everything I wanted to cover. Oh, I wanted to cover the psychology of missing the trade here. So I ended up the day down, not massively, but I was down about, I think my end of day tally was $177 a contract, including commissions. So nothing awful, and certainly much smaller than my average up day. However, psychologically, right, what I was fighting was the urge to do two things. First of all, it is emotionally offensive to me when I want to capture a long side trade and it takes off without me. I do feel offended emotionally. I don't know how else to explain that other than to say, like, I feel like I've been cheated. When I get that emotion, and I had it this morning, I try to do less, okay? Because what that usually leads to me is to fighting the market. And I'm speaking to people who have problems with overtrading or taking trades that are not on your menu per se. Okay, so immediately when we had this run, I was pretty much agitated at that point. Additionally, so I didn't take any trades through all of this in the attempt to get reset, and I had limited. I did take a trap trade on NQ, but additionally I had my limit sitting here, and by the time we hit this and then rejected down this second time here, I had lost my patience. At this point, I just kind of throw the towel in on the day. It's already New York lunch to begin with. There's not a whole lot more to do for me other than chalk it up as a day where I should have made a tremendous amount of money. Should have meaning somehow I had to magically know to buy the open, as Brian, one of my my coaching clients, said. How would have I known? There's no way as a pro that you could have known. Just unless your trade plan says every time I have a negative 1200 open, I buy that open and I take that loss. Now, I got to tell you, over the last year, that's been a winning trade. It's just a trade psychologically I have a hard time taking. Okay, I can tell you statistically, fantastic trade. But at this point, what I try to do to protect myself is do less at this point. because what I want to try to do is go, okay, so it's rotated up here. Now I'm going to try to smash it back down the other way. This is a head fake, right? And that usually ends up causing me significant pain and damage. And then once I missed it up here, there was really no more need to exert myself at that point. What I can walk away from, the pluses are, A, I had a good read on the market. B, my trade location and my zones were very well placed during the day and set me up to have a potential winning day. And third of all, I didn't allow my frustration with not getting my long trade to translating into a massive down day, right? Which happens to a lot of traders. You get the right read, you get frustrated, and then you start fighting the market because you didn't get the trade you wanted. So at any rate, I hope everyone found this helpful. I know this was very long. This is a very, very challenging environment because of the viciousness of the counter rallies back to the upside, right? And it is making it difficult to trade anything less than a 10-point rotation. And I can't emphasize that enough right now that I would keep that on your menu. 10 points, 10 points, 10 points is going to be very big in protecting yourself from getting run over in this market, either short or long, by the way. So anyways, my name is Simon. I'm with Trade and Perform Coaching. If you would like a trial to the live market preview, send me an email to tradeandperform@gmail.com or hit me on StockTwits or Twitter. I'll be happy to give you a 7-day free trial. My entire goal is to help traders go from being frustrated, break-even traders to consistently profitable traders. I hope everyone had a great day. I'm looking forward to having a better day tomorrow, and have a great night, everyone.